Hey guys, this is AgentMindStorm. Have you ever wanted to just be able to press F3 in Minecraft Bedrock so that you can see exactly how far apart your soul torches need to be so that mobs can't spawn in your little mine trail? Well, I've got the solution. Just press F8 instead. Yes, today I am showing off a really cool behavior pack plus resource pack combination created by Lucas Plays Games. I was given early access to the beta of it, which is pretty awesome of Lucas. Thanks a lot, Lucas. I'm definitely happy that you were able to give me early access to this. And effectively, what the add-on does is exactly what you're seeing. It adds something like the Java Edition debug screen to Bedrock Edition. You can even toggle it with F8. It's incredible. So how does this work? Well, unfortunately, as it does require a behavior pack, you can't use it in a world where you want to get achievements. So achievements will be disabled, even if it doesn't require cheats, so you can keep cheats off if that somehow makes you feel better, but like it's still, your achievements are still disabled. So unfortunately, you cannot use this in a world where you want to have achievements, but look at it. It updates perfectly. I'm in a plains biome. It says I'm in a plains biome. I go into a river. It says I'm in a river, or a plains biome, I guess. I don't know. River biomes are kind of strange. Look, jungle edge right here. Jungle hills. It's incredible just how well this resource pack works. So this debug screen replaces the scoreboard. So you can't have a scoreboard on screen and this debug screen. Unfortunately, you can only have one because the UI takes the scoreboards, moves them over to the left side of the screen, makes them look like how they do on screen right now. Also, the pack unfortunately does not work on the beta because the beta release has an issue with entity counting, which if you see that E, that's what the E means. If I throw down a bunch of cobblestone, you can see it increasing for every single one I throw because that is counting how many entities are in the world. Pretty awesome, isn't it? So what's everything that this debug screen does? Well, let's start at the top. First, it says Minecraft and your current version. Unfortunately, the version doesn't update, so you'll have to change the version in the code yourself, but that's not very difficult to do, and I can even show you in this video. The second thing is an approximation of your FPS. Unfortunately, Minecraft Bedrock does not have a way to get the FPS with a command, so you'll have to get an approximation. I'm pretty sure it factors in render distance and entities on screen, or at least entities loaded, to figure out about how many frames you're getting. So it says we're between 30 and 60 FPS, which seems correct because I feel a silky smooth 60 FPS on my end. Below it, it also tells us we're in the overworld. If I go to the nether, you can now see it says we're in the nether. Below the dimension selector, we have a spacer, and then we get into the really cool stuff. So we've got the block, which is, you could already see, it's basically just the position in the world. You could already see that with the show coordinates option. But then under it, we've got facing, which is useful if you're underground. So you can see east, south, west, and north. And it also tells you the negative or positive Z directions, which is very useful if you're trying to do a fill or clone command in creative mode, and you don't want to do a bunch of testing to try to figure out which way is positive X, which way is positive Z. Now you can just know, because the debug screen will tell you. Below that, we've got light. This is probably the most useful one. Yes, a lot of these are useful, but nothing is quite as useful as light, and there was no easy way to do it before. You could count manually how far you were from the light source, but that's really frustrating, when instead, look at this. It tells us exactly how far we need to go in here before, bam, mobs can now spawn. And 8, 7 mobs can spawn. And it works flawlessly. You got the light level anywhere, at any value, up to 15, because there is no value above 15. And it just works. That's the most impressive thing about this add-on. It just works. I'm going to show you how to enable it later in the video. Once you do that, it's just applied on the world permanently. It replaces your paper doll, which is the little character that appears in the corner of the screen. So if that was your favorite feature, you may be a little disappointed by this pack, but for the most part, it just works. Below it, the biome thing, which I showed off before, it really is perfectly accurate too. You could never really tell exactly where the savanna transitions into the roofed forest here, but now we know right here. These are the two blocks. This is savanna. This is roofed forest. Thank you, Debug Screen. Couldn't have figured that out before. We've also got the difficulty, which is just 2, so normal difficulty. Below that, we have day, which tells us how many days have elapsed since we started the world. This is a very interesting count because when you start the world, it's at day 0, and then as you keep playing, your days accumulate, and eventually you're on like day 5,000, and the game actually keeps track of that. You can just never see it. So with this debug menu, you can now see how many days you've spent in a world. And then these last two things just tell you how to toggle the screen on and off, and also help, which is not currently in the pack, so we're not going to look at it. So now the reason it says press F3 or F8 to toggle off is because I've currently only been showing you how this works on a keyboard. If we were playing touchscreen, you know how there's a pause at the top of the screen and emotes and chat? Well, this pack adds another button up there that says F3 on it. Just click that and bam, the menu will appear and disappear. Alright, I had to go get a controller because I didn't have a controller next to me. If you have a controller, all you have to do to enable the debug screen is crouch and sit still for about a second. Then the debug screen text will appear in the top right corner, and that's how you'll know you can press LB to enable the debug screen. It really works even with a controller. Lucas seriously thought of everything. If you do want to enable it through a menu, you can go to Settings, Video, and then it has replaced the Hide Paper Doll option. Now it says Debug Screen. Turn that on, and bam, you've got the debug screen. Isn't that incredible? So now that you know what the debug screen can do, how do you actually enable it? Well, do not just go to Settings, Global Resources, My Packs, and enable the pack. If you try to do that, it will warn you that you are missing dependencies. This is because the resource pack needs the behavior pack to work correctly. If you just enable one of them, it won't work at all. So do not enable it through Global Resources. Instead, go back, go to Play, Edit World. Then you will want to enable 2 settings. First, additional modding capabilities, which will create a copy of the world with EX in the name. Then scroll down and also enable Holiday Creator features. With these 2 toggles enabled, you can now enable the pack. We don't even need cheats, so I'm going to turn cheats off just to show you that the debug screen can work without them. So then I'm going to go to Resource Packs, My Packs, Java Debug Screen for Bedrock. Activate. Now it didn't give us any warning because it has also enabled the behavior pack. You should check just to make sure, but it will have the behavior pack and the resource pack enabled when you enable one of them. Now let's load up the world. After we download the plastic texture pack, apparently. And here we are. What are you doing, Enderman? And here we are. We now have a debug screen in our world. What is going on in this world? Why? Every time I try to talk about the pack, I just get murdered. So now that the world's been loaded, we can click F8 and bam! There's the debug screen. We've got all the information and we can see it in our world that we just enabled it on. So we've got difficulty, day, light. Look, we're on actually day 64 on this world. So if you guys ever saw The Pillars, that series, we now know that it took me 64 days total to complete everything. And I never could have known that without Lucas's debug screen. Alright, so the debug pack is installed, but what if you have had your fill of the debug screen and decided that you want to remove it from your world? Well, you can do that just fine, and it can be gone, and you can take the behavior and resource packs off, but that will leave one extra thing. And by the way, yes, you can take the behavior and resource pack off of the world without causing any damage. Some behavior packs will break the world if you try to remove them. This is not one of them. This behavior pack works perfectly fine if you disable it from the world. There is one extra thing though. Since there is a command block used for one of the commands, you will have to teleport yourself to 0, 0, 0. This will put you right next to the command block, which I already dug down to it in this world, but it will be surrounded by bedrock, so you kind of have to break this command block, is basically what I'm saying. Just break it, and then bam, you're free. Once you do that, the thing is actually uninstalled, and Lucas has said that there will be a remover add-on you can install that will uninstall the pack, and then you can uninstall the remover, but if you want to do it manually, that's how you do it. Come into your world, teleport to 0, 0, dig down to level 0, and break the command block. So I would like to give Lucas some suggestions for how we can improve the pack before the final release. The first thing I'd like to see is pretty simple. I would like to see namespaced biome names instead of default biome names. On Java Edition, all of the names are namespaced, so they say Minecraft : word _ word for the biome names. And on Lucas, on your pack, it simply says plains, or roofed forest, or desert. I think it would be more in line with how Java Edition does it if you just did Minecraft : namespaced name. Now, admittedly, Bedrock Edition does not have official namespace IDs for the biomes, so you could either use the ones from Java Edition or create some based on the Bedrock Edition ones, because Bedrock Edition has no default way of naming the biomes aside from numerical IDs. So you can basically make up whatever you want. I think that the difficulty viewer, while it's nice, is pretty useless because you can already see that information by clicking pause, settings, and going into game at any time, and then you can just see what the host has set the difficulty to. If you're the one who created the world, you obviously know what difficulty it is already, so I think that's kind of useless. You could probably take that away. Local difficulty on Java Edition is useful because it tells you how difficult the chunk that you're in is, which is calculated based on how long you've spent in that chunk. It's a very complicated thing, but basically, on Bedrock Edition, the difficulty is so simple that I think you could probably remove that from the debug screen without losing everything. The entity counter is very nice. I love it. The FPS counter is not very nice because I know it's the best you can do, and I know you want to have an FPS counter, but 30 to 60 FPS is such a general number, it really does not mean a lot. 30 to 60 FPS is a very, very wide range, and it's just not that useful. Personally, I would remove the FPS counter from this pack. I know it's cool, and I know it makes it look like Java, but I've never seen it change once under 30 FPS. Never. I do not understand why it needs to be on the screen at all times. The vanilla server at 20 ticks, that's perfect. The overworld nether end thing, the only thing I would say is currently if you go to the end, which I will do in the footage in the background, the end and the nether. Okay, see how it says the end? Well, I think it should say the nether too, instead of just nether, because on Java Edition it says the end and the nether. Now, I don't understand why it's not the overworld, but whatever. I think you should just have it in line with Java Edition. This pack is meant to replicate the Java Edition debug screen, so you might as well take the Java Edition formatting. Facing is great, block is great, light is perfect, biome already addressed, difficulty. The day counter is good. Is there some reason you can't run the day counter without a command block in the center of the world? Because I really think it would be nice if you could just run the day counter through the functions like you already have the rest of the scoreboard stuff. I don't know a lot, admittedly, and I'm sure you've already pushed the Minecraft Bedrock Edition command system to its limits, but that would be very nice if there wasn't a command block at 00. And then the last thing, this is super simple. You say press F3/F8 to toggle off for the debug menu. You know how to do this. I've seen you already use variables for different platforms in the code, because I had a look at the code. You should change it so that if you're using touchscreen, it'll say F3, and if you're not using touchscreen, it should say F8. You can make it do that instead of saying both. That's such a tiny thing. Everything else, I love the debug screen so much. The light in particular is awesome. The light counter, perfect. The biome detector, so good. Functionally, I still would like to see the namespace IDs. Well, what do you think of Lucas Plays Games debug screen? I personally think it's, what has happened to the day counter? Oh, the day counter's gone because I broke the day command block, duh. I love Lucas's pack. This pack is incredible. It brings something to Bedrock that we have been sorely missing for a long time, and I definitely recommend it to everyone once it's fully released. For now, I do want to tell you all, thanks for watching, and I will see you later.